All right, then let's go.
Alicia here, out for a walk with my dog Reenie. Reenie's my little scraggly Muppet. She's a Terrier Schnauzer mix, and she loves to roll in the grass. This is Sustainable Events Dog Walk, a short podcast from Positive Impact Event Consulting, where you can get a quick nugget about sustainability for your events and event business while on a walk with Alicia and her dog Reenie. Sustainability is a big project, but we'll get there together, one little step at a time. Hello, good day to you. I hope you are well and managing your personal health well. So, in the spirit of everything being a little bit of a bummer already and finding it hard to land on what to talk about, this week I figured I would bring you a 4 pillars review of the topic we've all been skirting around and avoiding, food. So, the reason I landed on doing a 4 pillar review today is it feels like the most important thing of all from what I have been thinking about and teaching about is remembering the 4 pillars, keeping your fundamentals under control. The more you're keeping this literacy and fundamental practice, best practices of reviewing and remembering your 4 pillars, the better success you're going to be having, the more creativity you're going to be able to have within the framework. And so today we're going to talk about food on the 4 pillars review. So first and foremost, your 4 pillars of sustainability are environmental, social and community, personal health and well-being, and economic. And in case you need the refresher, environmental is just what it sounds like. This is making sure that humanity can sustain throughout time on a planet with a place to live and breathe and walk. Social and community sustainability is the premise that we are basically a communal animal. We need each other. We need to feel well within our communities in order to thrive. I like the European abbreviation, which is IDEA: inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility are all vital components to a healthy society. Personal health and well-being, obviously this one feels like one of the most, like, we struggle to even put it on the list, obvious, because this is the premise that as a society, as humanity, we cannot sustain throughout time if the individual members are unwell. If you are not able to physically persist in making good choices, then you will not be persistently able to have a good influence and a good impact. And then economic sustainability, there's no point in pretending that we don't rely on economic forces to live our lives, and we are all running businesses here, and if your business cannot economically sustain the good choices that you're making, then it will also cease to make a positive impact. So, with those 4 pillars in mind, let's dive in on food, and we will just start at the top with environmental sustainability. The environmental impacts of our food systems on the world cannot be downplayed. So the things that you've obviously already heard of are reducing or eliminating red meat, animal products, including fish. And what I want to focus on is increasing the nutritional profile of the rest of the food to counterbalance. The really important thing, much like, we all had friends in college who went vegan without proper nutritional knowledge and made themselves pretty sick for a couple weeks. We're having a similar problem in the world of catering and menu development, that the elimination of animal protein is not being successfully substituted with alternative proteins, such that the people who are asking for that menu or the menu overall is able to satiate people and keep them nourished properly. So whether you are eliminating animal products or not, start looking at ways that you can be increasing healthy non-animal products on your menus, to be moving everyone in that direction and acclimating your consumers to those menus. And of course, the most important thing, even more important than getting rid of the meat, in my opinion, is to be using your local resources. So if you have local grass-fed beef, that's way better to support. Our next pillar is social and community. As we go into the winter months, it's time to keep your eye out for the winter festivals that include food and eating restrictions, both for your attendees and for your team, keeping an eye on making sure that there are meat-free options and fasting-friendly environments. Also spending a little bit more time as you develop celebration menus to make sure that there are non-alcoholic options that still feel celebratory and not like being relegated to the kids' table will make a really positive impact on your attendees and with your stakeholders. Our next pillar is personal health and well-being. Of course, naturally, when we're looking at food and personal health, you're expecting me to talk about dietary needs, making sure that the only gluten-free option is not something filled with dairy, making sure the only dairy-free option is not something filled with shrimp. But what I want to focus on instead is the food preparedness for your staff and volunteers, making sure that it's on your list to be prepared to make sure you can sustain them on site. Making sure you've communicated really well. This is a matter of communication both with your team to know what to expect and how to be prepared. Same with your volunteers. It's also about communicating with your catering and food providing team so that they are sure to hold the right amount of food in the agreed upon format for anyone who is expecting to be eating. We are all doing both physical and mental labor. We need to make sure that everyone has the food that they need and that it matches their dietary needs, it matches their cultural needs. In terms of personal health and well-being for food, leaving everyone to rely on gummy snacks and chocolatey protein bars and liquid IV is not a good long-term solution. We have access to well thought out better alternatives. It's just a matter of taking that planning and the concentration and extending it to include your staff and your volunteers. And our last pillar of sustainability is economic sustainability. When it comes to food and economic sustainability, obviously, I constantly talk about the importance of shopping and buying local, relying on your expert vendors to give you seasonal options. But let's talk about how we're in kind of a tough spot economically. I'm sure a lot of us are looking at reduced budgets or budgets that just go much less far than they used to in order to feed our attendees, get that impact. So in this case, really lean on your professional for that as well. Luckily, reducing animal products will save you some of the money. But the other thing to consider is how can you make your food budget economically touch one of your other budgets? Can you work with a chef who has something interesting to teach or share? Can you make it an experiential portion of your event so that it can share some of the budget with the entertainment? And when you're getting creative with your food budget is when you can start touching on some of your other pillars of sustainability in a way that brings a lot of interest. Is it a different culture of food you want to present? Is it a local culture? Do you have an interesting chef? Could you make it education about the local food systems or farming methods? There's lots of different elements to touch on sharing and covering interesting elements of your environmental choices, the social choices that can make your budget a little bit more forgiving and get you a little bit more economic power over the situation and keep the whole project sustainable from an economic standpoint so that you are still making the money you need to make or keeping it under the budget you need to keep it under, and ideally supporting the economy that you want to support, which is hopefully the local people or the minority businesses or whatever who you might have access to. So obviously for this 4-pillar review, I only gave basically one tip for each pillar, and we could talk endlessly about food from each pillar. So I would love to know if you have a go-to trick that you like to use to make food more sustainable with one of the 4 pillars for your projects. And if you are straining in any of these areas and you want support, please do reach out. My contact information is in the description of the podcast, and I will be catching you next time with more event sustainability tips, tricks, ideas, recommendations, referrals, and inspiration. Talk to you next time. Ciao. Thanks for joining me on Sustainable Events Dog Walk. I'm Alicia Druby, founder of Positive Impact Event Consulting, and I want to help you integrate sustainability into your event business so you're ready to make every event you work on more sustainable. See you next time.